Welcome back to the KRUSE Elite Podcast. Happy New Year, Tony. Can I still say that?
You could still say it.
Yeah.
I think you get the whole month.
You get the whole month, yeah. And this is our first podcast back since the new year.
Mm-hmm, that's right. Did you have a good holiday? You were sick, weren't you?
Oh my gosh. Like clockwork after the last conversation we had in the last episode when you were gutting it out and, you were sick and still showed up, which is awesome. And we got that episode done and we were talking about getting sick. And I think I even told you I was surprised I hadn't been sick yet because I was just wrapping up the Neuro Dojo. Sure enough, the next day I started feeling it. And so, I got a cold. I brought that cold with me right into the holidays, but it passed reasonably fast. And I mean, I still have, you know how it is. Like I've still got some of those lingering symptoms, but yeah, I'm totally good now.
Yeah, no, that's good to hear. I listen to every episode, obviously, because I mix and edit them, but hearing my voice back in like my sick voice.
Oh, sure.
Like, oh man. So I apologize to all the listeners for that.
I know what you mean when I edit my own videos and I know that I've had like a cold or something. And I'm like, oh, I hate that. But yeah, it's never as bad as you think it is.
Sure.
Yeah,
but I thought this would be a great opportunity to talk about the past year.
Totally.
Talk about the state of KRUSE Elite as a organization and kind of give people a sneak preview as to what you're thinking about for this coming year as well.
Yeah, it sounds great. I was just talking about all this with Alicia before getting on the episode. And Alicia had so much to contribute. I was like, you should just be on this one with me.
Yeah.
Because this is, you would have stuff to talk about. So she's getting close, man. She's getting close to getting on the podcast.
No, that's super exciting.
There was a lot to talk about because the last year has been a very exciting one. 2024 was very difficult in a lot of ways, but it was the most rewarding professionally ever for Alicia and I. So it's a very exciting year, but go figure, it was also probably the hardest year.
Yeah.
We had our heads down. We were really grinding, trying a lot of new things, failing in several different ways, and then just needing to pivot and figure out what to do next. And it was just awesome to end the year, knowing that all that hard work paid off. We had the best year we've ever had. KRUSE Elite as a business had the best year. And we gained a lot of clarity through all of it.
That's so awesome. So awesome. The main branches of this that I'm aware of from my vantage point is you started a podcast.
Yep.
So I'd love to talk about that. Yeah, let's just start there.
Let's just start there, man. Because, first of all, and I've said this to you several times and I'll keep saying it, but, your help in this podcast has just been extraordinary. If you remember back to when we started, I was really nervous about it. In fact, so the way that, just so our listeners know a little bit of history on this, the way that Tony and I actually met was through a mutual friend, Jordan Syatt. And I was talking to Jordan one day, and occasionally I'll get him on the phone and pick his brain about business because he's got a very successful online health and fitness business. Mm-hmm. And Jordan and I go way back because I actually coached him in wrestling a long time ago. And Jordan, in the process of giving me all these, all this feedback and just supporting me and helping me through different ideas, was like, dude, you really have to start a podcast. And I asked him about it because I felt like I was ready, but I was super nervous and I hadn't taken that first step. And I was like, I don't know how to do it. What should I do? And he was like, listen, you're already overthinking it. I just want you to start. And I was like, okay, but what software do I need? How am I going to do this? He's like, all right, here's a microphone. And he just sent me a link.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, cool. And he's like, now I'm going to tell you what to do. It's going to sound really complicated. I don't want you to get overwhelmed. I'm like, okay. He's like, go on your computer desktop and I want you to open QuickTime. And then I want you to hit audio recording and I want you to press audio recording and then start talking. And I was like, okay. And he's like, and then when you're done, I want you to export that and I want you to publish it. And I was like, but but I don't have an intro and I don't have an outro. And he was like, stop, just do it. And I was like, all right, I'm going for it.
Yeah.
So that's how this whole podcast thing started. And I did a few solo episodes, which was very difficult because to just, talk to the wall and you're already nervous and it's just tough, right? It's very difficult. It's different for me than video. Video, I had experience with. It's a little bit more like coaching in person, even though you don't have a person there.
Interesting.
I get to move, right? I get to move more. I get to demonstrate things. I think that ultimately helps my presentation skills. So doing a solo podcast was really hard. And I gave that feedback to Jordan. And Jordan was like, all right, dude, I want to put you in touch with my podcast guy, Tony. And, at the very least, this is going to be a good introduction. And maybe when you're ready, you can go for it. And then things just aligned at the right time. Tony, you and I got in touch and boom, we are off to the races.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't tell you how rewarding it's been working with you, just because you took it and ran with it. Like, I was coming up with some prompt ideas and just trying to get us comfortable and get us in a flow. And you were just right there, like ready to go.
Nice.
And,
yeah.
What I found in general is you're an expert in this subject matter, right? Like we're always still learning, but you are an expert in this. I just have to ask the questions and it comes out. And that's been so cool to like figure out, okay, like what are the questions actually? Because he's got it all in there.
Yes.
I just have to figure out what those questions are.
Yeah. And that's why from the beginning, I've been calling you my podcast coach.
Yeah.
Because I knew I needed somebody to get it out of my head because there's so many things in there banging around in my brain, thoughts and ideas. And it's hard for me to do it solo and get that to flow. But when I have someone that's asking the right questions like you, it just makes it a lot easier. So yeah, it's been really, really great to have you in the way, just so our listeners know, like these podcasts are designed by Tony. The coolest thing about working with Tony is that Tony, you've researched, like when we first met, you actually put the time in to figure out what I was doing as a coach, and you yourself started to learn about the material that I was teaching. And I think that has been just priceless because you're always watching, and I feel like you're feeling the pulse of our business and what we're doing on social media, and you're staying up to date with that. Your questions become super relevant. And I always am like when you pitch the ideas to me, I'm like, perfect. Let's go with it. So yeah, man, it's been great. Alicia and I are super, super thankful to you. And we're excited to see where it goes because it's still in its infancy, right?
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of the success we had in 2024 with our business, I do think a lot of it was driven from the podcast, because it just seems like when people are coming to your podcast, they're the ones that are really seeking out more education and they really want to hear what you have to say. They're the 1% that really care about what you're talking about. So when you can get someone to your podcast, it's more likely that they're going to be much more interested in the services that you have. I just think it's just been really, really helpful.
Yeah, I do think there's something about long form, and especially with something that's a little less intuitive, like this, neurology based approach. It's not necessarily the most obvious process.
Right.
So being able to speak on it in long form, I think is beneficial. And
definitely,
I would be remiss, since we've been talking about it, if you're listening to this podcast, if you've been enjoying the podcast, if you're getting something out of it, please leave a 5-star review.
Yes.
It means so much, and it really helps us grow the podcast and reach more people. So if you can, and if you have the time, please do that, and we'll thank you so much for it.
Yeah, big time. It's those little actions really mean a lot, and I always forget to tell people to do that. I'm so in the zone, kind of with the material and what we're teaching, but it's so beneficial to have that action.
Yeah. So the podcast, it sounds like it's growing. It sounds like it's something that you want to keep growing going forward. What about, you mentioned social media? What have been some of the revelations and insights about social media from 2024?
Gosh, there's been a lot. I have a lot to say on this. So there's been some really big wins, and then there's been some really, really difficult challenges. So let me start with one of the wins. So shortly after we got the podcast rolling and we felt comfortable with that, one of the things that's been on the to-do list for a long time is to get more consistent with posting on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that, I initially, so I've been posting on YouTube here and there over the years. And actually, I started some YouTube videos as long ago as like 10 years, but I never was consistent with it. And YouTube scared me away, and it shouldn't have. This was also another thing that I learned from Jordan, because Jordan, in the process of telling me, like, just start the podcast, just dive in and do it, I had the same conversation with him about YouTube, and he was like, you really just have to dive in and do it. And I was nervous because YouTube is such a competitive platform, and things are so well done production wise. Eventually, I just kind of got scared away, and I was like, well, I'm not really a video guy. Like, I know I have an online health and fitness business, and everything we do is content. But at the end of the day, I'm never really going to be the video guy. I'm a coach, and I'm okay sacrificing quality of production for the education and the knowledge that I think I can put out there. And maybe someday I'll have somebody that can help me with higher quality production. But right now, it's not super necessary. But in the back of my mind, I was like, well, if I don't have that higher quality production, maybe I don't belong on YouTube. And that was a mistake. So I kind of got away from it. And in 2024, I was like, all right, well, it's time to do this. So we started more consistently posting tutorials of exercises and just different kinds of education on YouTube. And that has been very successful. It's harder to grow a YouTube channel than it is like an Instagram page. But what we've learned is that people who are on YouTube are generally looking for education more than maybe what they're doing on Instagram, right? Because Instagram is more short form content. YouTube, you usually have people they're there because they're really hunting down more information, which is great for me because I'm an information guy.
Yeah,
right.
I want to the podcast, right? It's longer form.
Yes.
People are actually, unlike a podcast, people are dedicating their eyeballs to you and not just their ears. So they're really looking and watching, and
yeah. So we basically started the YouTube channel in terms of subscribers almost at zero. We've had several thousand subscribers in the last year.
Wow.
It's growing. Yeah, it's growing. I really like the engagement we're starting to get there. People asking questions. So it's going to take time because it always does, but very happy with it. And actually, I'm happy with the production quality too. I'm currently very limited with where I film my content. And, it's like the lighting's not the best and, but it's fine. It's all good. That stuff's not bothering me anymore. And I'm just putting out the content. And guess what? The viewers don't care. It doesn't bother them either. They want good education, and that's what we're providing. So I'm really psyched about that. And we're going to be putting more content on YouTube, for 2025. We're actually currently on a roll in terms of consistency and posting more frequently. So if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, you really should, because YouTube is a place where I'm going to be putting more effort into detailed tutorials on a lot of the exercises that I share with people on social media. Because as people know, when you do that, if you follow me on Instagram, packing in all that information to 30 seconds or 60 seconds is very difficult. Not only for me to create that content, but for the viewer, it's very hard to keep track of all the details and then actually take that and go and do it. And because Instagram is the way Instagram is, I mean, you have to rewatch it. You can't really skim a video. Like, you kind of can, but it's really annoying. And so if you want to go back and see something, you can't do that easily. And I'm teaching very detailed stuff. So now what I've been doing is directing people to the YouTube channel, because I should mention this. One of our goals for 2024 was to make sure that all of our content on social media was finally lining up. And because this has been one of our struggles over the years, because we wear a lot of hats in terms of what we do as coaches. And we've never been super clear on how to get all the content lined up. When we got the podcast going and we started going in more of a neuro-based direction, and we started having, good engagement with people on the neuro education, it gave us clarity, and it really showed us, oh, this is actually what people want from us. And we need to make sure that it's all lining up across all platforms. And so in 2024, if people were watching closely, you probably started seeing more of a shift to neuro and brain-based training, getting away from some of the more like fundamental strength and mobility things that we were doing previously. Not getting away from it entirely, because it's always going to be a part of what we do, but really kind of zooming in on the neuro. And so now we're really happy because both Instagram and YouTube and the podcast are very well aligned now with the type of content that we're putting out there.
Yeah, that sounds in some ways like a challenge just to get that all coordinated, but also in some ways maybe a little easier because you're touching the same topics, you're cross-pollinating, you're linking to each other.
Yeah.
So have you noticed, with having all of those different branches pulling in the same direction, a change in engagement at all?
Yeah, definitely. So you can always tell kind of when you're this focused on social media, you can literally feel the pulse of what's happening. What I mean by that is through your analytics that you're looking at and through the feedback you're getting from viewers and listeners and the questions you're getting, it really gives you this feeling of understanding, how is my content being perceived by people watching it or listening to it. So I've definitely seen a shift. And the biggest thing I can say is that the questions have become the right questions. And that is huge, because previously the questions were scattered. And I never had people going deep enough in their thought process to ask the right question for where I was picking up their education. Like people on Instagram would be like, hey, I have ankle pain. What should I do? And then it's like, well, do you know about our threat bucket? And they're like, no. Well, do you know about pain neuroscience and how there's no pain in your ankle? It's all constructed in your brain? No. Okay. Do you know that you probably shouldn't be working always locally on that ankle pain and that you got to do these other things? And the answer was no. And so there was a huge gap. There's a huge gap. And we're still closing that gap. That's our professional goal, actually, is to close that gap. We're always going to be closing that gap for people educationally. But I'm getting the right questions now. And it's exciting because it allows me to educate about the things that make me most excited and satisfied with as a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. There's probably a trade-off though, right? Because strength and mobility is more mainstream. It's more accessible in that way. Do you feel like maybe you're losing some people that might otherwise be looking to you?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. There's a trade-off. So we're in a, as far as like Instagram goes, the pulse of followers and unfollowers is always fluctuating on a platform like that. And right now we're kind of staying the same in terms of our followers, whereas the last 2 years we've been growing very quickly.
Okay.
And actually this is something I really wanted to talk about. So there's been a big shift in the content that we're putting out there as far as short form content goes. And this is a big deal for us because this is something we're very excited about. And it's a decision that we've come to based on our success and based on the clarity that we got in 2024. And where we basically came to was a place where we realized we were very unsatisfied with what was happening or the type of short form content that we were putting out there. And what I mean by that is I was taking complicated concepts, I was packing them into 30-second, maybe 60-second videos. And it was cool that I learned how to do that, because what it turned into was interest and eyeballs, because people, they liked the content, they followed the page, and it allowed us to grow. But even though we were growing, we weren't really able to showcase what we really know and what we can do for people as coaches, because our services and our programs, they're coaching programs. And it's, and we have a supportive community. And there was kind of a disconnect between just putting content out there that was awesome, that was going to get somebody out of 10 years of shoulder pain with one exercise, which happens all the time. People in my DMs being like, I've been working with physios for years and years and years. I've never had any improvements. All of a sudden, the algorithm sends me your one nerve glide that says it's for shoulder pain. I do it. My pain's gone. I can't believe it. Is this real? Like, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
And I love that. Like, that's really cool. But there's a big disconnect, because it still doesn't show people the type of coach I am. It just shows that I know how to put good information into the post, send it out there, and people like it or hit save on it, and maybe they go back later and check it out. And so from a coach's perspective, I became unsatisfied with that. And to be completely honest, it wasn't the best strategy for our business, because people might be liking that content, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we're finding those select few people that want to lean in further and work with us. So there's like this trade-off, like you're building your following, but then what percentage of those people actually want to lean in for more? And do they know why they would want to lean in for more?
Right.
Because just because I know a cool nerve glide and I showed it to you doesn't show you the type of coach I am. It doesn't show you what we can provide you with our services in our community. So we've really had to think about this, and finally came to a place where, like, you know what? We want to stop putting out only short form content like that. And I think it's always going to be a part, like, you're still going to get that from us a little bit, because it is cool to get a great exercise and have it taught in a very fast way so that you can get exposure to it, But what you're going to start to see, and we've already started this, is, and this actually comes back to some of my personal beliefs on where social media has gone. I'm very frustrated with where Instagram has gone. I'm frustrated with Instagram in a lot of ways. That will be our next topic, if you remind me. I don't want to forget that. But one of my main frustrations with Instagram and short form content is that we're just inundated by it, right? It's very competitive now. Everybody's doing reels. It's go, 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 in your face. I mean, as well as I do, you become a zombie scrolling through your phone on Instagram. You don't even know what you're looking at. Some of it's ridiculous, unrelated to your interests. Some of it is related to your interests. Some of it should not be on Instagram because it's not appropriate. It's just becoming junk.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of it. And so that's bothered me. And I don't want to participate in that. And I don't want to lower the quality of what we have to offer by jamming it into 45 seconds necessarily. So what we've done and what we've been doing is we're spending more time creating carousels, right? Those slider type posts. And man, it's been a much nicer experience in a lot of ways. It's slowed me down on my content creation in a good way. It's allowed me to really think through the type of education that I want to put in the post. And I know that for the right people who want to learn more from us, it's slowing them down too, which means we're going to be finding people who are more interested in what we have to teach about. because you actually have to take the extra time to swipe through the carousel, read the slides, maybe view a video that I put in there. And the engagement that's coming from those carousels is awesome. The engagement is from the type of person that I'm really hoping to meet and possibly even work with, because these people they're more interested. They're more interested in the topic. So you're going to be seeing that from us now. And I'm very pleased with that. If you love the old short form stuff, don't worry, it's not gone forever. We're just not going to be doing it as much as we did in 2023 and 24.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense, especially from my experience with your philosophy. It's like, yeah, some fixes can happen in 30 seconds.
Right.
But the understanding to know when to apply it and how to assess it and why you would even do that thing
Exactly.
is not something that can be learned in 30 seconds. It's just not.
That's it. I always tell people, because I've had several people say to me, aren't you afraid people are going to steal your stuff? Right. And I have to say, like, early on in my career, when I first started putting things on social media, I actually was like, wait, like, what if people steal all my material?
Mm-hmm.
And then I soon after that, I learned very quickly, exercises have no value. They have no value. It's the why, it's the how, and then it's the understanding of how to do it and the variables that come into play for how to get results in the long term.
Mm-hmm.
But the exercise itself has no value, because there's so many other things that matter that you have to know in order to get the most out of it. And that's where I come in as a coach.
Yep.
So I'm okay putting that stuff out there. And if it happens to land in the right hands and somebody tries an exercise and it helps them, awesome. That's the hope when you're putting free content out there, is that you actually make an impact. And so I'm cool with that.
Yeah. Pardon this analogy, especially because you are a fishing enthusiast, but the exercise is the fish, and you can give that to someone, but really you want them to come back to you and say, hey, teach me how to fish.
I love it. That's exactly it. Nice.
Yeah. So what have been some of the specific challenges with social media? You mentioned Instagram.
Yes. Yeah. It's been very frustrating, big challenges for several years now, actually. It's just that 2024, it really was a very, very big challenge. So this is my other big frustration with Instagram, particularly. So let's see where to start. Well, we'll start with what the outcome of what's happened. So about 2 years ago, I think it was, we had restrictions put on our Instagram account. And so that restriction it's devastating, honestly. That restriction is that we cannot share our website on Instagram. And what that means is, when you go to the link in our bio, we are not allowed to put our website there. When someone asks me in my DMs, what are your services? How can I learn more? I am not allowed to put our website in the DMs. We're blocked. It's devastating for our business, technically,
it makes
because
no sense.
It's crazy. And I'll go into why we think this has happened in a minute here, but it makes it very challenging, because the goal of social media for a select few people who want to go further and find out what your services are is you funnel them into the service, right? You teach them stuff on social media, and then they become interested, and then you have that experience with them, and maybe they watch a YouTube video and then come back to you and they're very excited because something good happened and they want to learn more. And then they can find your website and learn about what you actually do.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's impossible for somebody to go from Instagram to our website. And so for what we do, it's like, well, gosh, that's a big deal. And if you know anything about social media and how difficult it is to move people around on social media and get them to go to where you want them to go because of pressing buttons, right? Like, getting someone to stop scrolling on your content is hard enough because there's so many other distractions.
Yeah.
And they have to be interested. So you have to find someone who's interested, and willing to give you a certain amount of time of their day for what you have to say. And then if they're more interested, you have to tell them where to go to learn more, and they have to be willing to hit the next button and maybe a few buttons to get to that place.
Yeah.
And I think people who don't understand this because they don't have an online business or something, it probably sounds silly. But to get somebody to go one button further from, let's say, the like button, I mean, it's difficult to get someone to like your post, but if they do and they're willing to take action, to get them to go a step further is so difficult. And so now if we do get somebody to go a step further, they can't even find the website.
Yeah.
I mean, it is nauseating to think about. So let me describe what we think has happened. About a year and a half ago, we started using an automated service, meaning like you can use keywords. It's actually quite popular now. You can use keywords. If people write a specific keyword in the comments, then that automated service will direct message them whatever it is you have for them, whether that's a freemium, we call it, like a free product, or maybe it's a link.
Download this PDF.
Yeah, you got it.
You know,
exactly.
my program for this. I've seen a bunch of people use it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Comment on the posts and I'll DM you my free guide to this.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And if you happen to have an online service and you have an enrollment going, you can actually use it within enrollments too. And, to sign up for this free course or whatever, you can use this keyword. And so we started using an automated service called ManyChat. Okay. And this is very popular now. And it was awesome. And let me give you a little history from what I know. The little I know anyway, is that ManyChat is actually owned by Meta. So this is a separate, entity in the fact that it's called ManyChat and it's not built into Instagram. This is like a separate service, but it's owned by Meta. And so we started using ManyChat and we started using these keywords because at the time we were experimenting with running free mobility challenges where we would have people sign up for the free mobility challenge. And for essentially a month straight, I would take them through a live experience where we ran a couple of them where I was literally live almost every day with people. And I would give them an educational experience, run them through different exercises, answer questions, provide coaching. This was a free mobility challenge to get people more exposure to our style of mobility training because our Instagram account had grown very quickly, essentially using the topic of mobility and pain reduction. So we decided to run these free challenges for those who were more interested. And we used ManyChat. And it was very successful for us. If I remember correctly, I might not get these numbers totally right, so I would need Alicia here. But the first challenge we decided to do, the free mobility challenge, it was a totally it was a leap of faith idea that Alicia came up with. We decided to go with it. And I remember Alicia being like, well, how many people do you think will sign up? And I was like, well, I would be happy if we had like 15 people. Like, I have no idea. Like, and we used this automated service. I think we had 4,000 people sign up or something.
Oh my goodness.
And we were like, we couldn't even like deal with the traffic in our DMs. And thank goodness we had the automated service, because had we not used it, but still been even reasonably successful with the signups, we would have had to have been inside our direct messages for weeks, every single day, all day, just to get back. Yep.
Send.
There's because we already were spending almost full days inside the DMs when this enrollment for the free challenge was happening. So we went from me thinking we were going to be happy with 15 people to we had 4,000 signups and hundreds of people showing up to these live calls. It was really cool. It was like our first experience that was like, wow, like there's actually people out there that are interested in what we are teaching here.
Yeah.
So back to ManyChat. It started out as a very good thing. And we continued to use it because we were hosting free mobility challenges relatively pretty frequently. Forget the exact frequency, but I want to say we did like 4 of them the first year. And lots of people were signing up. And in that process, what we think happened was, at least what we were told happened, is that Instagram and their bots, I don't know what to call them, flagged us as a spam account because they were accusing us of spamming people because we were sending out the same automation over and over and over again. Now,
which is the point of the service.
Which is the point of the service. By the company.
The same umbrella company as Instagram. It's like not even...
ridiculous.
Yeah.
So we were using the service for what it was supposed to be for. And because we were sending out the same automation and so many people were getting it, we got flagged as a spam account. And Instagram will tell you, you've been flagged for like a spam account, and your content might be harmful to the viewer. And so as a result of that, restrictions were put on our account. And there was actually several restrictions. And one of those restrictions, and this has happened a couple times, was that nobody, or I was not allowed to respond to anybody in the comments. So imagine being in your enrollment period, which you only really will do for a week or two.
Yeah.
And the one thing that you have to focus on for that 1 to 2 weeks is communication with people who are interested in doing the program. And now Instagram has blocked us from communicating with people. And so that was luckily something that didn't hurt us as bad as it could have because we had already received a lot of signups. And so that particular restriction was also temporary. That was lifted before the enrollment period, I think, was even done for some of those challenges because it happened a couple times. And it was temporary, so we got through it. However, the blocking of our website is not temporary. That is permanent. And so we have been struggling with this permanent restriction for quite a while now. And, so did we try to get help on this? Yes, we did. We first went through ManyChat. Okay. And this is when we started to really learn and pick up on the fact that this was all one big scam. We worked with ManyChat for a year to try to figure this out, back and forth. Alicia was communicating with some representative from ManyChat. And at first, it seemed like they were going to help us. They were very positive. Okay, we've contacted Meta. We are waiting to hear back from them. We think we can resolve this because this is likely because of, bots, whatever. Back and forth. A year goes by. And that representative eventually says, sorry, we can't help you anymore. We cannot do anything. We cannot get assistance from Meta. And it's like, you're kidding me. So you led us on for a year and made us think that we are going to be able to solve this if we were patient. And then all of a sudden, cold turkey, stop. We can't help you. And the kicker is, okay, somebody might think, go get customer service from Meta. That's not a thing. People don't realize this. There is no customer service from Meta. So inside Instagram, you can request help. You don't get a response. It's all fake. And so then they tell you, all right, if you're Meta verified and you have the blue check next to your name, we'll provide you with customer service. It's like, okay, so I got to pay you now. All right, so I've already paid you for a service that you own. We used it for what it's good for. You told us that's not allowed, and now you've banned us from posting our website. And now you want us to pay you for a little blue check that you put next to our name that says we are verified, and you'll give us customer service if we do that. Well, okay, we've come this far. Let's do that. We go and apply to become Meta verified. And they say, oh, I'm sorry. You are not eligible because you have restrictions on your account. Okay. So there is no customer service. And actually, we've heard from other people who have that verification that does not actually mean that you get customer service either.
Yeah.
So it's been very hard, to say the least. But back to the good, remember how we started this podcast? We had the most successful year, right? And so Alicia was able to find some workarounds that are reasonable. And they still allow the person who wants to work hard enough to find our website and learn more about what we do. She's able to create a couple workarounds within Instagram. Now, here's the kicker, and I want people to listen very closely to this. If you're interested in coming along with us and seeing all the content that we put out there, and maybe someday you become interested in working with us, you have to know this. If you want to know what's really going on with KRUSE Elite, because you're interested in free content or what our programs are or our courses, you have to be on our mailing list, because that's where we share all of those things. And that is where you're going to get information about enrollment periods for the courses that we run. If you're interested in those courses, you have to be on our email list. Now, can you get to our email list through Instagram still? Yes, you can, because of the workaround, but it's very hard to get somebody to sign up for an email list. I mean, think about it. How many times do you put your email in to something that you're, on, social media, because you are willingly requesting them to mail you? Like, nobody wants mail.
Yeah. Usually it's because you get a discount on a product you're about to buy, and they're like,
exactly,
if you sign up, we'll give you 10% off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, 10%. They're basically, they're
That's
paying
right.
you to
That's right.
provide your email.
Yeah. And then you provide your email, you get your 10% coupon, then you unsubscribe, and then you make your purchase.
If you remember.
If you remember. So it's very hard to get people to sign up for an email list. What you should know about ours is we're not going to spam you. We're going to send you free content that's very valuable. We're going to include education within that. We're also going to allow you to see when we're having different enrollment periods for the courses that we have. You don't need to feel like you're going to get on the list and get a bunch of emails every single day. We really only email people when it's important.
Yeah.
Right. When there's good free content. Like, I think our last email that went out was kind of a year-end review, and we shared the 3 most viewed posts. I think it was like on Instagram and YouTube. And then we also shared the podcasts that got the most downloads.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of content.
It's really interesting stuff. Yeah. And like, obviously I'm doing the podcast with you, so I've got the pulse on that, but that's where I find out, like, oh, there's a YouTube video out. Like, let me go check that out. That kind of thing.
Yes.
It's great. Can we put the link in the show notes?
Totally. Yeah. We'll put that in the show notes. So remember to get on our email list if you really want to know what's happening with KRUSE Elite and get additional content, and also know when we're running those enrollment periods. Because as I said, there's just a lot of challenges right now on social media, particularly Instagram. So that would be a great way to lean in closer and follow us. And let me just add, it's a good time to say it. All of the little actions that people take are so valuable to us because of what I just described. Like, think about it. Instagram is trying to hold us back. I believe that part of that is because we are a small business, and we were finding a way to get a lot of views, and we were doing it without having to pay Instagram. And I think that where Instagram is going as a platform, and again, I'm not an expert on this, and I can't see the future with all this, and maybe I'm wrong, but what it feels like is that we're kind of entering a place where more and more you're going to see that in order to advertise yourself and as a business, you're going to have to pay for that. And before, because of the popularity of short form content, it was very, I don't want to say easy because there's a ton of work that goes into it, but you could put a post out there, and if it happens to be the right content and the algorithm picks it up, you'll get 1 million views. And therefore, you're getting a lot of great exposure, and it's basically for free. Those times seem to be coming to an end slowly. And I think that that's part of this. I think that that's part of the restrictions. This is not happening to our account only. Trust me. There are lots of accounts out there that are struggling with a variety of different restrictions. And I do find it crazy because, everybody knows if you scroll through Instagram, the things that you see are wild. Why would you hold back a small mom and pop business that are focused on helping people get healthier and more fit? So every action that you guys can take, and I'm talking to everybody who's listening to the podcast. If you are a follower on Instagram or YouTube. Every action that you can take, whether it's just liking a video, giving it a thumbs up on YouTube, even to our own members, right? Our own members, if you guys, because you engage with me so much inside of our platform, but the public can't see that. And I don't want you to stop doing that. That's great. That's where I want the most engagement. But if you can engage in some way when you feel like it, I'm not asking you to do this in an artificial way just to do it. But when you feel that you have something to contribute on Instagram in the comments, please do. You guys are actually the ones that I want to hear from. And it helps so much. I cannot begin to tell you those little actions, because that's how we find more people like you guys. It's huge. So if you could do that when you feel it's appropriate, we would be grateful.
One of the beautiful things about social media, and there's a lot of ugly things, right? One of the beautiful things about social media is you can find like-minded people and community there.
Yes,
it exists. You got to scroll past all the dopamine and clickbait and
exactly
culture wars and all that stuff, but you can find a community of people who are all pulling in the same direction. And so, for someone that's new to KRUSE Elite or just fitness in general, or dealing with pain and they don't know where to go, and they see your comment about how some exercise you did or some technique you're using is getting you your knee mobility back, or helping with your back pain, or changing. I mean, that really opens people's eyes more so than anything Taylor and I could say, right?
Yep. And people, what it does too is it starts to build a level of trust in people that are viewing your stuff, because they're seeing that other individuals are involved with what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. It starts to not seem, I don't know what the word would be, but to give you an example, one of our most engaged members that came in on our very first free challenge, one of the first things that they asked me when they came into the free challenge was, "Is this a scam?"
Really?
Yeah. We laugh about it now because this person has stayed within our community. They're very engaged and they love it. But initially they thought it was a scam because they saw a couple of our short form, content pieces that taught an exercise very quickly. It kind of funneled them into this idea of, do you want to try this free challenge? Mm-hmm. They signed up for the free challenge, and they weren't even sure if a real human being was going to show up on the live call when we started doing the live component. And they're not the first ones to ask if it was a scam. And that really gave me perspective that, like, it doesn't seem real to people when you're following a page and you're just seeing this guy who's talking about mobility and pain. I don't seem real. I'm just showing up. The algorithm's just showing them the same guy maybe over and over again. And yeah, we've had several people who are like, "Oh, this is awesome. I can't believe a real person showed up for these live calls." And then it changes everything, right? It changes the whole experience. So it's just, social media, man, it's really bizarre.
And to be fair, there is a lot of stuff out there that is designed.
That's right.
Just to make you promises and separate you from your money.
That's right.
I see a lot of ads on YouTube like that. I'm not going to be very specific about it, but it's always like, you can look like this guy, and all you need to do is in 30 days, you can completely transform your body or whatever. And
there's a lot of stuff
it's not
like
real.
That. That's a lot of stuff. And so here's what's happening right now. It's very problematic, and it's also part of the reason why I've decided to get away from 100% all short form content. People feel deceived, right, with what they're seeing on social media. There's so many different layers to that. It's not just what you're seeing on social media. I'm sure like politics come into it. People, they feel deceived and they feel like they're constantly trying to be duped.
Yeah.
And often they are. They are, because what you see on social media, like, there's so much, I don't know, there's so much false information, or you can't even necessarily believe what you're seeing now because of AI.
I mean, that's a whole other
nother thing. So it's like people are put in a position scrolling through Instagram to almost be defensive and protective.
Mm-hmm.
And I deal with this all the time. People attack me on my short form content. They don't attack me on my longer form stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because that same person doesn't want to read it. But
you're not the first person to tell me that, by the way.
Yeah.
The long form, you get way more positive engagement than in the comments section on social media.
That's right. And so if I do something short form, a lot of information, and then there's like people in the comments being like, hey, I tried this and my pain went away. Thanks a lot. It almost, you would think that helps you.
Mm-hmm.
It almost, in many ways, I think it hurts. Because it almost adds to this like, hey, is this a scam? This guy just showed this seemingly simple little exercise. These 10 people first in the comments say that it solved their shoulder pain. It almost makes it look unreal. And then a lot of people, not a lot, but like, occasionally people will attack it. And like I had one guy recently, it actually happened over on YouTube in YouTube Shorts. YouTube Shorts is a whole different world. My gosh, they love to attack you over there. This guy's like, false information, cite your sources. Oh, and what do you know? At the end, he funnels you into learning about his services. And I wrote back to the guy and I'm like, dude, yeah, shame on me for telling you what my services are.
Yeah.
Like, by the way, like I'm a coach who runs a business.
Of course.
I'm allowed to do that. You get to make the decision as to whether or not you want to watch this content, even decide if you like it or if you have any interest in it, and you, of course, get to decide if you would want to go further and pay me or not. These are all your decisions. So why would you take the time to attack me about that?
Yeah. Going back to the newsletter and actually back to the podcast, in your last one, you had the top 3 episodes, and then you also shared with me the top 10 of this past year.
Yes.
And it was really interesting to me to see that the neural hierarchy series, which was when I thought we went full nerd.
Oh man, I was worried.
And those were the top 3 podcasts that you and I did, was the neural hierarchy part 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
And then the other ones were interviews with other neuro coaches and with other Strength Dojo members.
Right. And I was surprised about that.
Well, that tells me 2 things, right? It's that when people are actually getting past the short form and really engaging, they do want to learn more and go deep into the subject, but also when they hear other people's voices.
Right.
When it's not just you and me, when there's other coaches and other clients that are telling their stories, they want to hear about that too. And it comes to mind when we're talking about social media and what contrast that is.
Right.
It's not just like, oh, this person is a paid bot to say like, hey, I tried this and it fixed my pain. It's like, no, you get to hear this person over an hour podcast tell their story and what they've been through and why it worked. And I think that's so powerful.
It is powerful. And yeah, that's so true. It's funny. So I had one of those episodes, I had one of our members, Karen, on, and she talked about her journey with overcoming plantar fasciitis. And one of my good friends listened to that, and he also does neuro work. And he was like, oh, I listened to that podcast because I thought it was going to be like all these cool neuro tricks and like all this like wild stuff that you would have done that were brain-based for overcoming plantar fasciitis. And I was like, nope, it wasn't that. It wasn't the short-term type of feeling like quick fix. It was how are we going to change this person's lifestyle? What changes does she need to create in her life consistently to overcome what she believed was more of a lifestyle cause to her plantar fasciitis? So I really think, like what you're saying, it's very relatable. And it also reminds people that no matter how cool the voodoo seems, because there's always going to be neuro voodoo. The fact is, some neuro work works so fast and it's so powerful all at once. It's hard to believe, and it's very seductive because it makes you think that that's all it is and you want more of that. When in reality, those hard-nosed basics of what we know it takes to create long-term change with your health, that takes time. That takes hard work. That takes consistency. And yeah, I think when
it takes
we get
education,
in
is what I've
education,
realized. Yeah.
yes, thank you for sure. And so that's kind of cool when we have people on that can talk about that whole process. I've been slacking on those episodes, and I need to get some more people on. In fact, if any of our members are listening, I know we've mentioned this in some emails in the past, but if anybody is interested in coming on the podcast and just kind of rapping with me in a very casual way about their process, it doesn't have to be about an amazing result.
Yeah.
There's so many ways that we can create, good dialogue around, the work that you're doing, inspired by our program. So if you want to do that, hit me up on that, because I would love to add you to the list.
Amazing. Yeah. Would you say that that's a goal for 2025, is to do more of those episodes?
I would say that. Yeah, I would say that. And I know Alicia would too. She really wants those to happen. And we just have been so busy in the last several months that I let my guard down a little bit on doing them and finding more members that want to do it.
Yeah. I got to say, you're one of the busiest guys I know. When we schedule our calls and we do it, we're like 10 minutes to the minute usually. And I don't think it's intentional, but it's just like, I just know you got stuff to do.
Yeah. You know what? Most of that stuff is dad responsibility.
Yeah.
It's like I have a lot to do work-wise, but it's pretty dialed right now.
Mm-hmm.
The hardest part, and this is also a thing that has made this last year as challenging as it was, is that our workload drastically increased because we felt like we finally knew where to put our focus and attention. And that focus was finally paying us back in several ways. And so our workload increased, but then my daughter, who's almost 4 years old, she's not in daycare or anything. So my wife and I are juggling the responsibilities back and forth all day. She'll do a few hours of work in the morning. I'll be with our daughter. We'll switch. That switch happens back and forth constantly all day, getting the meals in there and getting outside still to go on walks, together, getting home. I'm usually doing my last social media post after we eat dinner. So this goes on till past dinner. Bro, this is fatiguing. This is the most fatiguing thing I've ever done in my life. I've wrestled in college. I used to say that was the hardest thing I ever did in my life and that everything was easy after that. I can actually tell you that in a very strange way, the parent responsibilities and working at home and running a business that is growing, that's the hardest thing I've ever done by a long shot. And it comes with a level of fatigue that I never understood. Like, I never knew it was a real thing. For me personally, I've thought a lot about this. It's the back and forth of starting and stopping tasks that steals my momentum and my energy.
Yeah.
And so that's been one of the bigger struggles for, the last year. And geez, I don't know if that's going to get easier, but I don't think it will, but things are becoming more rewarding. So, it's giving back energy in that way. And we're figuring out every day how to, hopefully do the right things with the business and also take care of parent responsibilities as best we can.
Yeah. I'm not a parent, but just being a solo entrepreneur, I guess.
Yeah.
And just having just so many different things going on and different projects and needs. And
you bounce around a lot. You bounce because you're mobile too. Like, you're out there going to different places.
Yeah. After we get done with this, I'm going to clean the snow off my car and then load up for a concert at a venue. But I'm going to go in several hours early because we just did an install to the venue. And there's some little loose ends that I need to finish up before the show tonight.
Gotcha.
And it's like, all that to say, I can really relate, and I can only imagine being a parent on top of that. But is your daughter gonna start school this coming year, or is that in?
I don't think so. Yeah.
No.
So she's gonna be 4 very soon.
Oh, she's gonna be 4.
She's gonna be 4.
Yeah.
She's not quite 4.
So 2026,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. My wife and I joke about that. If we had even 2 hours. So the other day, our neighbor, who's lovely. So when we were doing our Neuro Dojo calls, those calls are long live calls for me to do. And my daughter would, our neighbor would watch our daughter for a few hours while we did that, because Alicia is on those live calls in the chat box answering people's questions. Because I'm not going to see them all as I'm,
Right.
as I'm
you're talking.
teaching. That's right. Yeah. So it's actually a great benefit of the course, because you can be learning material and then asking questions in the chat box, and Alicia is able to answer those questions if I miss them. And so our neighbor was able to watch our daughter during that time, and that was awesome. And then the other day she's like, I know that your thing's over, but do you want me to do that on Wednesday? And we were like, well, that would be weird, but yeah, let's do that. And so, yeah, so
good for you.
Yeah, so yesterday actually
awesome.
we had those couple of hours to work, and without the distraction. And for any parent out there that doesn't really get that opportunity very much, it's like a weird feeling. You're like, I guess I have to work now. But,
yeah, right.
Yeah, but because you got to make it worth it. You got to
count. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, well, good for you for taking her up on that.
It's really great to have that.
So what other goals do you have for KRUSE Elite in 2025, and maybe for yourself in 2025?
Well, let's see. So staying on the topic of KRUSE Elite, one of the things that we've already done is we have changed the way that we run our dojo membership to be a more supportive place for people that are interested in the neuro content. Whereas previously, when we first started our membership, this is our monthly membership that we call the dojo. Previously, it was a place that people would come to for structured programs, mobility programs, strength programs. Now, we still have those structured programs inside it, and that's not going to go away. But what we've done is decided to kind of rebrand it, I guess you would say, and make it a supportive place for people that are more interested in the neuro content. We've taken that one step further as of recently, and we've decided that in order to actually get somebody into that monthly membership, we're going to require that they take our neuro courses. So in other words, what that means is it's no longer going to be open to the public for somebody that just wants to sign up and come and do the workouts. The reason we've decided to do that is because there was a massive gap forming. Somebody would come in, they'd be excited about the workouts, and then they'd message me inside the platform and say, hey, I have hip pain or back pain. What do I do about this? And then it puts me in a position to be like, well, do you know about the threat bucket? Do you know about neuroscience pain education? Do you know opposing joint theory? Do you know?
So that was happening even within your own
Yes.
members.
And so,
interesting.
And so what we were able to do in that scenario was say, well, I'm going to send you some content from live calls that covers our assessment process. Because if you have pain, you need to learn our assessment process that helps you problem solve it, because they wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, this person who just signed up for this monthly membership because they wanted to work out and get stronger has 3 pieces of long form content to watch just to get up to speed on what it is that we actually do, because they might not know what we do yet. Yeah. And so it was very problematic. And we did find some great people who, we're very grateful that you went through the gauntlet and you hung in there, because we've known this whole time that it's not an easy path to get somebody into our membership and get them all the education that they need so that they can navigate it in the best way possible. So we've now made it so that we're not going to be opening it to the general public in terms of just like, hey, come sign up to do a mobility program. People want neuro from us. We know that now. What we're going to require is that you take either our neuro fundamentals course, which I need to talk about next, because that's brand new and coming this February. You either have to take our neuro fundamentals course, or you need to take our neuro dojo, which is our advanced course. And then the membership itself is going to remain the supportive community that you can be in after those courses. There's a ton of great neuro content and education inside that membership, including the fact that I go live every single week with neuro-based themes. Mm-hmm. So that's very exciting, because kind of like what I was talking about with getting all the content to line up, that is part of the lineup. That's part of the lineup, and I think that's going to make it really awesome.
Yeah, it sounds like you're building a bridge from the strength and fitness enthusiast to
Exactly.
the like full on neuro
Yeah.
student. And, I can't imagine it any other way, to be honest. I mean,
Yes.
with the concepts that you've talked about on this podcast, I mean, it's like you've gotta build that baseline to really be able to apply any of it.
That's right. Yeah. Otherwise, you come in and the first obstacle you hit, it's almost like the people messaging were hoping there was a short form Instagram video they could watch
Mm-hmm.
to help them through the problem. And that's in part our fault because we kind of taught you that there should be.
Like
Because
there's nerve glides and there's
yes,
these
exactly.
exercises that you can do, these protocols.
Yep.
Right?
And like I said, the exercises don't have value. That's what I've learned over the years. It's the why, the how, receiving the coaching,
the when,
the when, all that stuff. And that's what is inside the membership, including all the supportive education to kind of go along with our neuro courses. So that's going to be good. What else? So I mentioned that inside the membership, this is actually relatively new too. We have themed weekly calls, or I should say monthly themes. Those are all neuro-based now. So if you've taken one of our courses, we're going to keep you involved. Like yesterday, I did a live call with the members on training and assessing the cerebellum. That's not really something we were doing before. It would be more general, like, hey guys, I'm coming on today to teach you how to do a better knee circle.
Mm-hmm.
And I would provide coaching on that. We've now taken it several steps further, and we're actually talking about that neuro stuff very regularly and dedicating a theme to each month. So right now it's the cerebellum. Another month is going to be all about breathing.
Mm-hmm.
We just finished up a month on training and assessing the visual system. So that's it's going to be an awesome resource for people.
Yeah, very nice.
Other than that, personally, I'm not a huge like New Year's resolution type dude. Don't have anything against it. I think just the type of person I am, I'm always kind of working towards something.
Mm-hmm.
I never really necessarily set a start date or an end date on that. It's just kind of like what I'm interested in the moment. But right now, and I don't know if this is just coincidence of the new year or not, but through the fall, I really dropped off with my frequency of training.
Mm-hmm.
Of what I mean is both workouts and jujitsu. And so I was very distracted. We were working really hard, and then the Neuro Dojo started, and there was just a lot to do.
Yeah.
So as of recently, I've been super consistent with getting back into my own workouts. So that feels good.
Yeah.
At a minimum, getting 2 good ones in a week. That's great for me. And if I can get that third one in, that's ideal.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm been already successful there. Plan to keep going. BJJ, so Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Again, I dropped off. I just feel like I've been dabbling with jiu-jitsu. Then I had the knee injury. That kind of derailed me slightly. But my mind hasn't been with jiu-jitsu because of how busy I've been. Anyone who does jiu-jitsu knows that if you are training once a week, that's almost like not training.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've been doing. I've just been dabbling and kind of showing up to like still be involved with it. But I hope to kind of get my mind back into jiu-jitsu and increase my frequency a little bit for the new year so that I can make up for some lost time. Because I went last Saturday, I was there and I was just like, oh, I don't even remember jiu-jitsu. It's amazing what you forget when you're not there. You lose the speed of pattern recognition. That's what it is for me. You lose the speed of pattern recognition. And when that happens, you become the guy who's constantly defending himself.
Yeah.
Last on that list is I'm doing a little mini cut. My pants got a little tight. That's my trigger, man. That's my trigger. So normally what I do very consistently, it just is like a natural flow, is usually I'll do a little mini cut in the spring and it just works. And I didn't really do that this last spring. I kind of did. And then I decided, I'm in the fall, I'm going to do it. And I started in the fall, but what I noticed is my stress levels got too high to sustain it.
Yeah.
And so I bailed. Yeah. And so I had lost I think in the fall, I probably had dropped 6 pounds. And then I got to a point, I'm like, this doesn't feel right. This is not the right time to do it. Mm-hmm. My threat bucket was too high. Didn't want to add that extra layer of stress. So as of recently, I was like, you know what, let's give this another go. And it's for whatever reason now, it's working good. I got triggered by my clothes being tighter. That's my trigger.
Yeah.
When my pants get a little tight, I'm like, nah. And this always historically happens to me in the winter.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, let's do a mini cut. So I started that, and I'm dialed right now. I'm dialed. I've adjusted my eating a little bit. I've looked, kind of zoomed in on my habits, figured out, where I have to make a few adjustments. I do my mini cuts without counting calories at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because I don't believe in counting calories. It's because I have so much experience with it.
Yeah.
I know what it feels like. And when I can get my eating to a place where I know I'm getting what I need, but I'm still in a calorie deficit, then those little mini cuts go really smoothly. And that's just from years, a long time ago, becoming really familiar with how many calories are in a food and what does that feel like to consume.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that right now, and I just pretty much started. I think I'm down like a little over a half pound, and honestly, I've got to get rid of 10. I'll be happy. That's my ideal healthy weight once I get rid of the hibernation.
I mean, it's
weight.
after the holidays.
Yep,
I mean,
exactly.
It's always like a forced march, and you had the Neuro Dojo and other things, but like it's always tough, and the
Yes.
holidays come in, and your habits get thrown off, and you're eating rich food, and
that's it.
I find January is a good time to recalibrate.
Yeah, especially right now, dude. It's been so cold, and we try to get out on walks a couple times a day, and man, between just kind of having my head down and working lately, and then not getting motivated to go outside and walk because it's been like, up here anyway, it's been like 20-mile-an-hour winds, negative wind chill. It's like, I'm not motivated for that. So my step count right now is so bad, I'd be embarrassed to really even know what it is. Oh man. So I'm looking forward to this cold front letting up a little bit.
Yeah. You got any fishing plan? Don't you fish in the dead of winter like a maniac?
So I went out on January 1st. I went out because that's opening day. But I lucked out, dude. It was like 40 degrees. So that's beautiful. Like a 40-degree day is like, I mean, that's epic for winter fishing. Didn't catch anything, which is not unusual for winter fishing, but it was so nice to get out, and I won't have many of those opportunities. Probably find another one in March.
Yeah.
And then, April rolls around and I'll be out there a little bit more.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Any last thoughts on last year or this coming year before we wrap up?
Just want to thank everybody. Thank you to the listeners for, taking the time out of your day to listen to the podcast. If you're over on the YouTube channel or Instagram, again, thank you. Your support means everything to us. And as I mentioned, those little actions that you take, man, they go so much further than you would even know. So thank you for all the support along the way. I think the last thing I want to tell people, and for some folks probably remind them, is that coming down the pipe now, the biggest thing that we have coming is in February, we've actually decided to run a neuro fundamentals course. It's going to be about a 10-week course with a live component. It is designed to be the stepping stone course into the Neuro Dojo. So at this point, if you're becoming really interested in the neuro content, whether you're a health and fitness professional or not, this is going to be an amazing course that teaches you the fundamentals that we actually think you need to learn first before diving into the Neuro Dojo. Because the Neuro Dojo is like a different galaxy. Mm-hmm. I mean, very educated people that show up in the Neuro Dojo that have done movement stuff for a lot of years are like, wow, this is a wild. And I mean that in a good way, but it's a ton of new information. So coming up in February with our fundamentals course, you're going to get what we think is the true foundation for what you need to know before taking it a step further. And that course is going to be loaded with great neuro. If you're a health and movement professional, you're going to develop an amazing tool set and kind of battery of assessments that will help you help your clients much faster and with things that you never knew possible. So it's going to be awesome. And if you're not a movement professional, it's okay. You might just be a nerd, a movement nerd. And we have tons of movement nerds within the community taking our courses. So just wanted to be clear on that. But that's what's coming. And it's going to be an awesome course. Remember, get on our email list. And if you're on the email list receiving emails from us, then you won't miss it when we start advertising the enrollment period for that course.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, we'll put the mailing list in the show notes. Yeah, it's been a great year. Thanks for bringing me along on this journey.
Oh, man, thank you. It has been a great year. So we're looking forward to some really exciting stuff to come.
Yeah, likewise.
All right, there it is. Thank you so much for listening, and we will be back very soon.